You were told to grow out of this one. Fear of the dark. That's a kid thing, right? Something you leave behind with the nightlight and the door cracked open 3 careful inches. Well, here's the inversion. The fear you've spent your whole life being a little embarrassed about might be one of the smartest pieces of equipment you own. And here's the strange part. It's wrong almost every single time. It fires in your hallway, in your locked apartment, behind a door nothing can open, and there is nothing there. Nothing. It keeps doing it anyway, night after night, decade after decade. Most people call that a glitch. By the end of this, you're going to call it something else. So stay with me, because to see why a system that's basically wrong on purpose is actually genius, we have to go a few places that sound completely unrelated. A piece of cold evolutionary math. A pattern hidden inside real lion attacks. The first technology we ever built to fight back. And a flinch in a dark room that your body refuses to talk itself out of. Same fear. Completely different lens. Let's start with the thing everyone agrees on, because it's worth being fair to it. The standard story goes like this. Fear of the dark is a leftover, a glitch. A bit of childish wiring that modern life quietly made pointless. You live in a building with locks. There's a streetlight outside. Statistically, the most dangerous thing in your bedroom is the corner of the bed frame at 2 a.m. So the fear is irrational, the story says, and the job is to outgrow it, override it, flip on a lamp and feel a little silly about the whole thing. And look, on the surface, that story is hard to argue with. Nothing is hunting you. The fear insists otherwise. Case closed. Except it isn't even close to closed, because irrational turns out to be the wrong word. The fear isn't broken. It's calibrated. And to feel the difference, look up at the smoke detector on your ceiling. That thing goes off when you make toast. It shrieks at a candle. It has, statistically, almost never detected an actual house fire, and it has dragged you out of bed at 3 a.m. over nothing more times than you can count. By the exact logic we just used on the dark, you should rip it off the wall. It's wrong constantly. Useless, basically, on any given night, and yet you'd never take it down. Because some part of you understands, without thinking, that a device which is annoying 10,000 times is worth it the one time the kitchen is genuinely on fire. The cost of a false alarm is a few seconds of irritation. The cost of a missed real one is everything. Your fear of the dark is that detector. It just happens to be installed in you, and you don't get to unplug it. And here's where the math gets kind of beautiful, in a faintly unsettling way. Researchers in evolutionary medicine have actually modeled this, the cold arithmetic of when a built-in alarm should fire. Picture an ancestor on the savannah. There's a rustle in the grass. Could be wind, could be a leopard. Running burns something small, basically a few wasted calories and a bruised ego. Guessing wrong the other way, calling it wind when it's a leopard, costs you your entire future and every descendant you might have had. So the equation tilts hard. If fleeing costs you 100 calories, and being eaten costs you something on the order of 10,000, then it's mathematically worth bolting the instant there's even a 1% chance something's out there. Let that sit for a second. The optimal system, the smartest setting evolution could possibly dial in, produces a response that is wrong about 99 times out of 100. 99% false alarms. Still the best design available. That's the part that gets me, honestly. We keep calling this thing a flaw. The math calls it flawless. Now, you might be thinking that's a tidy theory, the kind of thing that sounds clever and proves absolutely nothing. Fair. So here's where it stops being a theory and starts leaving fingerprints. There are still places on Earth where large predators hunt people, which means the danger of the dark isn't a metaphor there. It's a number you can put in a spreadsheet. A 2011 study published in the journal PLOS One did exactly that. Ecologists assembled the largest data set of lion attacks on humans ever put together, more than 1,000 attacks recorded in southern Tanzania across roughly 2 decades. A lot of them happened to farmers sleeping out in their fields to guard crops from animals. And then the researchers did something simple and a little ruthless. They lined every attack up against the phase of the moon. Here's what they found. When the moon was bright, attacks dropped off, because prey can see a lion coming across a lit field. But in the dark stretch, the nights right after the full moon, when the moon rises late and the early evening goes properly black, attacks didn't just tick up. The hourly rate ran 2 to 4 times higher than in the brighter half of the month. Same lions, same villages. The only thing that moved was how much light was in the sky. Think about that. Your nervous system has been quietly running that spreadsheet for a very long time. It just never showed you the cells. So picture the trade-off your ancestors were actually solving. Every single night, for a very long time. Staying alert after dark is cheap. It costs you some sleep, a little wear on the nerves, the occasional wasted sprint at a noise that turned out to be nothing. Switching that alertness off, even once, on the wrong night, costs you everything you are and everyone you'd ever become. When the downside is that lopsided, evolution doesn't hedge. It doesn't build you a balanced, reasonable, easygoing relationship with the dark. It builds you a hair trigger and calls it a day. And the wild part is, you can still see the behavior that trade-off carved into us. We are, almost uniquely among animals, terrible at being alone in the dark and very good at being together in it. Our ancestors didn't just feel the fear, they acted on it. The same way, over and over, for thousands of generations. You guarded, you huddled close, you slept lighter in the small hours, and woke at sounds that didn't belong. None of that is conscious strategy. It's the fear, doing your thinking for you, and it kept enough of them alive that here you are. And here's what we eventually did about it, which is maybe the most human move in the whole story. We didn't evolve better eyes. We couldn't. So we built something instead. We don't know exactly when we tamed fire, the estimates argue, across a wide range, but at some point we did, and it changed the math of the night completely. Fire was a technology. The first one that mattered, basically. And notice what it was actually for. Yes, it cooked food and it kept the cold off. But half the point of the fire wasn't even seeing. It was making sure nothing could watch you from a place you couldn't watch back. A ring of light is a wall the dark can't cross. For the first time, our ancestors could push the predators back to the edge of the glow and put their guard down. Just a little. Just enough to sleep deeper than they'd ever safely slept before. So the fear built the fire. And the fire is the great-great-grandparent of the lamp on your nightstand. The hallway light you flick on without thinking. The glow of the phone you tell yourself you're not scared to put down. Every one of those is the same ancient move. Make a little island of light. Keep the dark at arm's length. We have been doing it, in some form, for longer than we've had farms or writing or names for the stars. There's another layer here, and it's a little humbling. Part of why the dark hits us this hard is that we were, frankly, never built for it. A lot of animals that hunt at night come fully equipped. Many carry a reflective layer behind the eye, a tapetum lucidum, the thing that makes a cat's eyes flash green in your headlights. It bounces light back through the retina for a second pass, basically a built-in night vision upgrade. We don't have one. Not a weak version. Zero. None at all. We're daylight animals, primates who traded low light sensitivity for sharp, color-rich daytime vision, which is a wonderful deal at noon and a pretty miserable one at midnight. Meanwhile, the things that might want to eat us hear several times better than we do and move easily through a darkness where we are, functionally, blind. So picture the real situation your ancestors woke into after sunset. Their single best sense, the one they leaned on for nearly everything, just switched off. And it switched off in exactly the window the local predators did their finest work. Your brain looks at that arrangement and goes, reasonably enough, we are not relaxing right now. Now look again, because this next part flips the whole thing. You're not actually afraid of the dark. Read that again, because it matters. Darkness itself is just an absence. There is genuinely nothing in it to fear. What you're afraid of is the deletion of your main sense, and what your brain does the instant that sense goes quiet. Because here's the thing, your brain cannot stand a blank. It's a pattern machine, tuned to find the shape of a threat fast, and when you hand it a black room with no information, it doesn't shrug and wait patiently for more data. It fills the gap itself. That smudge of shadow becomes a figure. That ordinary creak becomes a footstep on the stairs. And this even has a measurable signature. Give someone a sudden noise in a lit room and they flinch. Give them the identical noise in the dark, and the flinch is bigger, sharper, much harder to suppress. Identical sound, only the light was different. You can know, with total certainty, that your hallway is empty, and your body will run the predator subroutine anyway. It would rather make you feel foolish 1,000 nights than let you stroll calmly into the one room that isn't empty. But wait, if this thing is so brilliant, why does it feel so useless? Why does a system that kept your ancestors alive now mostly just keep you awake, jumpy in a house that's perfectly safe? And that's the honest tension sitting at the center of all this. The detector isn't smart, exactly. It's old. It was tuned for a world that stopped existing a very long time ago, and nobody told it the world changed. Can't tell the difference between a savanna at the dark of the moon and a studio apartment with a deadbolt. To the wiring, those are the same place, so it keeps doing the job it was hired for, with total commitment, in an office that shut down millennia ago, which is frankly kind of magnificent when you sit with it. It has never once decided you were finally safe enough to clock out. And here's where it stops being a fun fact and starts being personal. Because you didn't learn this. We tend to assume kids pick up fear of the dark from stories, a sibling's ghost tale, a movie they were too small to watch. But the fear shows up before the stories do. Developmental researchers find it rarely appears before age 2, then climbs sharply and peaks in early childhood, on roughly the same schedule across cultures that grew up nothing alike. One study found something like 85% of children between 7 and 9 carry mild nighttime fears. Kids raised in bright, locked, perfectly safe homes report the same unease as everyone else. It arrives almost on a timer. And it doesn't fully leave either. Surveys of grown adults, people with mortgages and alarm systems, and a very rational understanding of statistics, find that roughly a third of them still feel it. You're not the exception here. You're the schedule. The thing you flick a light on to escape is older than your language, older than your name, handed down an unbroken line of people, who were every single one of them, a little afraid of the same dark. So let me hand you the lens flip, the thing this whole video has been walking toward. The fear you were told to be embarrassed about is not a defect you failed to fix. It's the reason you exist to be annoyed by it. It's a guardian that has never taken a night off. It stood watch over every ancestor you have, in every dark they ever faced, and it lost not one of them on the way to you, because the cautious ones are the ones who lived long enough to have kids. That's not a flaw, that's wiring. And it's still on shift tonight, in your hallway, mildly embarrassing and utterly devoted, guarding a door that nothing is trying to open. Just in case. One honest note before we close. If the dark is something that genuinely runs your life, that tips into real distress instead of the everyday flicker we're talking about, that's its own thing, and worth talking through with an actual person. What we're describing here is the common version. The quiet background hum, almost all of us carry, and never quite question. So tonight, when the last light goes off and the room goes black, and you feel that small, ancient flicker at the base of your skull, the one that insists, very quietly, that the dark is not empty, you don't have to argue with it. You can just notice it for what it actually is. Not a weakness, not a leftover, a very old, very loyal alarm doing the one job it has done almost flawlessly for 100,000 years. 100,000 years on the job. 0 nights off. On a night it will, almost certainly, be wrong about. Almost certainly. If you like the ones that take something you were sure you understood and turn it over to show you the strange underside, stick around. There's a whole shelf of ordinary things waiting to look different. Same world, different lens.